flashback draft.
Yep.
We're going to join right here. We've got our tickets. I want to see how far we can go in it. Now, before this gets started, 8th edition is a core set that plays like most core sets. It's a little slower. It's a little grindier. We'll be picking up cards like Gravedigger, pretty high, removal spells like Volcanic Hammer. This is just old school, simple Magic. It's not super fast. It's not glacially slow. It's just really in the middle, really on the basics.
Okay, so you think just big creatures, with a reasonable curve?
2 for 1s.
2 for 1s,
2 for
reasonable
1s.
Curve.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't need 1-drops. 2-drops will be okay if we can put an aggressive deck. We also need to pull up what cards are worth money, because we get to keep the cards here, because it's all wacky.
Yeah.
TG Goldfish. And here we go. Okay.
Edition.
Let's make this all big.
Well, you're on the wrong monitor.
Yeah, we're pulling it over here.
Alright.
And then prices. Price list. Modern. 8th edition.
There you go.
Next week is
Next
Mirrodin, which I'm excited. It's a lot of fun. 8th edition is not particularly fun. All right, so we will be taking
Blood Moon, Ensnaring Bridge, Defense Grid,
Choke, Bribery, Wrath of God.
Okay, so Bribery is worth just taking, and Wrath of God is worth just taking.
A lot of these are. The only one of these that's not playable. Blood Moon's not playable in the deck. Grid, Choke is not. City of Brass is not.
For Phyrexian Arena, we'd probably take anyway. Worship's kind of up in the A, or probably not.
I would take that card. Some decks just can't beat Worship.
Okay. So
Burns
Birds of
great.
Paradise is pretty good. Probably
I wouldn't take Intruder Alarm first, and it's not good enough.
Yeah. So about basically Birds and up, right? And then any of the pieces of the Urzatron.
I'd take them
Would
later.
we take any of those? Okay, we would take those just because, right?
I would take those over picks that didn't matter, or for cards
just
that
because
are
you
low.
want them, they're not really worth anything, right?
They're worth 80 cents a piece.
They're
Okay.
not worth my time to sell them, I guess.
Some of the cards are just good enough to play.
Yeah, a lot of the cards we're just going to be taking because they build our deck, right?
Yeah.
Won't Grave Pack be worth playing, even though it's not worth any money?
It's triple black, so I probably couldn't play it.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you don't think the format is slow enough that if we played 2 colors we would get there?
Triple black is essentially like turn 6. If black was our main color, I would play Grave Pack.
Okay.
If black was our secondary color, you're looking like turn 9.
Because Grave Pack is, really unstoppable in some formats.
So speaking
there's Worship.
Well, let's talk about this for a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about the rest of the pack, obviously.
I want to take Worship because it's a card I can build around, and it can be unbeatable. Your opponent has to kill all of your creatures before they can kill you. The card I would pick if I wasn't considering Worship that may or may not be better, I'm not sure, is Sever Soul. It's a very powerful, almost non-conditional removal spell. 5, destroy target black creature. It can't be regenerated.
Non-black, but yeah.
Yeah, non-black. Sorry, destroy target non-black creature. Can't be regenerated. You gain life equal to its toughness.
I love that you get to keep those awful planes.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but man.
Now let's look at the rest of the pack and see what's going on, and you guys will see why this is all about the 2 for 1s or unconditional removal. Cinderwall is sad, Coral Ill is sad, and good in this format because it's a 2-man. Yeah. Elvish Pioneer is terrible. Vicious Hunger, double black is fine. Sabertooth Tiger, 2/1 flying.
So I really like this flying first strike guy, but he costs 4.
He's the next best.
The giant cockroach, I remember playing with that.
I would take.
Was it also in 9th, maybe?
Yeah, so we're looking at a lower quality of cards than you guys are used to.
Horribly.
Right, Relentless Assault.
So that is not worth any money, and you don't think it's playable?
No. The removal is better. Look, we've got Dark Banishing.
Well, I was just wondering if it's playable, not if we should take it, because we should take it.
So, in newer formats, you can take Auras, because the removal's not as good. But we've got Dark Banishing here. Boomerang. My picks are between Dark Banishing and Puppeteer. Puppeteer is a must-answer card. It allows you to prevent people from attacking or blocking, and always removes their best thing. Okay. Dark Banishing is...
Dark Banishing is the best card, no doubt.
I'm not sure. Puppeteer is extremely strong.
Really?
You essentially get to stop their biggest creature until they kill this.
Okay. So, I've noticed that we've seen 2 packs, and we've got 1 Mana Lake, 1 Remove Soul already that I've seen.
Would you rather be blue or black?
I'd rather be black.
Okay.
But that's just because it'll have more removal.
Alright, let's go ahead and take... Because Dark Banishing is at common. Alright, let's go ahead and take Dark Banishing. We can take Inferno. It is a powerful effect.
Destroy target white creature. It can't be regenerated on a card. I don't think we really want
All right.
that. Gravedigger, you said was good. So
Gravedigger-
normally you wouldn't play Gravedigger. Right?
I would normally. I think Gravedigger is a card that is fine in newer formats, but it doesn't shine as much because tempo is so much more important.
Mhm.
But as you can tell here, they've got Stormcrow.
Now
Like-
what about Sage Owl?
No. You
Yeah.
just reorder them. You don't draw a card off Sage Owl.
Okay, so you don't think that's worth anything?
We can check if Merchant
No,
Scroll.
it's not worth any money. No, that's
Merchant
worth money.
Scroll is worth 44 cents, but I don't want to take
Yeah,
a 44-cent card.
I
off
was just
Gravedigger.
wondering if reordering cards was worth enough to take it.
No, it's not worth as much as actually getting a card.
Okay.
And Gravedigger plays very well with Warships.
So this entire pack, not very good.
If I wasn't taking Gravedigger, I would take Shock Troops.
Or Inferno? How high is Inferno on your
It's
list?
fine. It's a very playable card. It is a wrath effect. The problem is each player can mean
us
you can
too.
die.
Yeah. So let's see. Is there a Megrim deck? Is that possible?
No.
Okay. What about Sizzle? Is that a thing?
No. I'm between Master Decoy, which actually I think is the pick,
Okay, I think that is the pick.
or Tome. And I'm not sure if the Tome or Master Decoy. These are very slow formats.
Oh man, I'd forgotten that was a rare.
Oh, yeah, it's a very powerful effect in older formats too. I think I want to take the
decoy is the best.
It's very close for me, but I'm going to take the Decoy. I would like to be...
Now, regeneration is that going to be worth playing?
No,
aura
most
there?
of the black cards have a non-regeneration clause, and many red
Okay.
cards do too.
So does Dark Banishing have the non-regeneration clause?
Yes.
Okay.
Dark Banishing and Severed Soul both do.
All right.
So we're going to take Master Decoy. I'm very close to wanting to take this Tome, but I think we are going to be tap out and take the Decoy.
The tome may actually come back around.
It shouldn't. It might. People don't always know how to draft these older formats.
Swamp Walk seems okay. The Fear seems really good.
I'm between Bogwraith, Glory Seeker, or Ravenous Rats. I'd like to remain... There's no fixing, so having easy mana cost matters a lot. Like, Severed Legion is good.
Well, so I think we're going to be mostly black. So I think Fear will get through so many creatures. But the Swamp Walk is also good because I think a lot of people might try to play black, but maybe not so much. Since we're going to cut it so hard. Let's go with the Fear, I think, over.
I think the Severed Legion might wheel because it's double black.
I don't think so. Fear is a stupid powerful ability.
Okay, well, we can also...
Because it can only be blocked by artifacts, which I don't think there are any.
There's
And
a
black creatures.
Phyrexian Hulk, but yeah.
So there's one artifact, and there's not too many black creatures. There's another one. Maybe that wasn't the best idea.
No, I'm going to take my second one. This will give us the evasion we need. The only other card I would consider is...
Sneaky Homunculus. I don't think we'll ever play that one. Oh, there's a Wall of Spears. I don't think that would be very good.
It would be fine to play. I'd rather
Is
play...
Telepathy worth
No.
playing? I've heard stories about pros winning with the Telepathy.
No. We're going to keep
I
picking
believe
the
it was
black...
specifically Johnny Magic, but
We're going to keep playing black and white cards, and we're just going to build a very simple black-white... I want more card advantage. I want more Gravedigger effects.
yeah, I want more removal is what I want.
We're going to need more than just removal. Okay, so there's nothing particularly playable here. There's Flying Carpet, but I don't think we need to give our guys flying. There's Honor Guard to block, and there's Spineless Thug. I don't think any of those cards are playable. So I'm between... So we're not playing Maggot Carrier or Spineless Thug. Basically, will we play Honor Guard? Will we play Flying Carpet? If the answer is no, we should take Dehydration or Giant Spider, because I'm not playing either of those black cards. And I'm pretty sure I don't want to take Honor Guard. That's just a bad card.
Pretty sure you want the guy with Reach.
Because if we do end up in green,
What about the Flying Carpet?
I'm not taking a card that gives me creatures flying when I have two creatures with fear.
So Dusk Imp is our colors.
Oh, yeah. Dusk Imp is great, sorry.
Is Coercion worth picking if it comes back around?
No.
It can't even come back around at this point.
Alright, so looking at these packs, Brad, how do you feel about the card quality?
So basically, basic lands seem better than these cards, so not too good.
Right. So,
I'm very excited about playing 8th edition because I've never drafted it before. Like I'm excited about, I don't know, going to see some old James Bond movie in theaters. Like I've seen it before, but
It's
I haven't
nostalgic.
seen it before, right?
So these early sets we play 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's about card efficiency. These aren't synergy based. There's not cool things going on. getting more cards out of your cards. Okay, so here we can either go with Standing Troops or Vulnerable Monk.
Venerable?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Standing Troops.
Okay.
I didn't
we
mean
should have
to.
talked a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I meant to actually do that. Okay, so I think
So
I'm taking the Merchant Scroll because it has some sort of value, and we're definitely not playing
is
Holy
Twiddle worth taking?
No. We're not playing blue. And that's doing a card down. Card advantage is the name of the game.
Okay.
All your cards need to do something, and twiddling does nothing. So
Okay.
we're going to go ahead and take the card that has some sort of value.
So Swamp Walk?
Nah, we'll just take Unholy Strength because we might actually play that.
Okay.
I don't plan to, but there's a chance. As with Holy Day.
I mean, yeah. I don't
Because there are
wanna
cards
play
like Overrun
But
in these sets.
every once in a while, playing that might be okay.
Right, so let's say we play opponent and they have Overrun. I could board in my Holy Days against Combat Tricks and Overrun because then it's a 1-for-1. And it can put them in a bad position.
Yeah, not to mention they're going to say, oh, he's dead. Swing all out, we Holy Day, and we're going to look like, we got lucky. Because no one ever looks like they're great when they Holy Day.
Alright, so I think Staunch Defenders...
Wow, I do not want to play against Temporal Adept.
It's very, very powerful. And it's target permanent. It's not even non-land permanent. Like, it will just wreck us, by the way.
Yeah.
The triple blue is hard. Nausea is
I think Staunch
fine.
Defenders is going to probably win the game on its own, seeing all these other terrible creatures.
There's a lot of toughness creatures in here. There's not a lot of...
I think I'm more excited about playing green all of a sudden just because of this 3/6 here. I don't think I've seen anything except removal that can kill that guy.
Yeah, no. Green is just
Oh
giant.
man, red just doesn't seem like it's playable on this.
In most red formats, there's Burn. In this one, there's Sizzles. Our opponents can try to sizzle us to death.
And I hope they do.
Well, the good news is hopefully you'll pick up a couple more cards like Staunch Defenders so that...
Yeah, I
Anyman life
want
game.
a Venerable Monk as well if it wheels.
Yeah, I
that
would like
seems
to
to
have
be
one
the
of each.
next pick out of this pack.
For me, I think I would go Staunch Defenders and then my first Nausea. Because
Oh, you would take the first one?
the first one because there's a lot of creatures with 1 toughness
Okay.
before my extra card there. All right.
So that's probably worth taking. It was worth $1 or $2.
It's worth $1.25. Let's see if there's a card that's actually great for our deck.
Uh,
So here are the payoff cards. Air Elemental. That's a first pick quality card. It's one of the best in the whole set. Lightning Blast. One of the best cards in the whole set.
we're not either of those colors, though.
No, we are not. Shock Troops and Shock.
Wow, so this is a pretty stacked pack,
Right? These are 3 of the best red cards and the best blue card.
and basically nothing for us. Is Maggot Carrier worth playing?
No, we passed those before. We just got unlucky that they didn't have any cards from us. I don't know what our opponents took.
Yeah.
They might also be in black because we passed them a Sever Soul, and they might be trying to stay in it, which doesn't really matter because we've been getting good black from the other way. We could consider going into a color here. We saw some okay red, but I think I want to just stay the black-white, and I'm going to go ahead and take this to my sideboard. Okay.
Wow.
So
They are in black, it seems.
they are. That's fine.
I think Dredge Skeletons is probably worth it, but this Cloud Chaser was probably better.
Right. And there are some relevant enchantments. Being able to get rid of them is good. It's not a May ability, so it can be a little tricky, but we just have the 1 warship. I don't want to run the Glory Seeker, and being able to have evasion is really good. I would also consider Rod of Ruin.
As sad as it is, I think Lavax is playable in this format.
It's okay. So do you want to go with the Avon Chaser or the Rod of Ruin? The Rod of Ruin can do a lot of work. There's a lot of 1 toughness creatures. Makes combat harder, but it is slow.
I think a flying creature is probably better.
Okay, those are the 2 that I would find
Because
justifiable.
right now we have 2 fear creatures and
1 flying creature.
1 flying creature. So now we'll have 2 flying creatures, and I think that's a good way to win.
Also, there's not fun cards like Sanctimonium. Sanctimony, whenever an opponent taps a mountain, you gain 1 life. That's not a fun card to play against.
Nope, that is certainly not a fun card to
Green
play
is
against.
definitely open from this way.
So I would say we either take the Spine to Worm, because we could possibly splash for it. Although there's basically no mana fixing in this entire set. We could also take Sanctimony if we just really want to hate on red players, or Solidarity, just because it's going to win basically every combat.
It doesn't help, though. We have a bunch of high toughness guys already.
Okay.
I think I'm not playing Sanctimony. I'm not playing Holy Strength. I'm not playing Solidarity. I'm just taking Spine Worm, and then just let my people take
I mean,
Worm.
we could take a dwarf that could destroy walls, because that's
Yeah,
something
see,
every
the
game
thing about it
needs.
is, this isn't a hate pick. This is, we're not picking any of these cards. What's the card we'd like to least play against? Because I'm not playing
Well,
any of these cards.
It's also, it could theoretically make it into our deck.
Gosh, I hope not.
It would be a sad day, but we're getting cut pretty hard on black and white right now.
All right. So let's see. We have 3 good green cards, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good white cards.
So perhaps we want to take the rampant growth. So if we go to green, we might can splash for our white.
I would just be splashing Worship, but they would be fine to splash it.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have giant growth than that. We could take Scathe Zombies. It's not
It's
exciting.
not terrible, but I think I would rather have rampant growth.
I don't think we'll end up in green because white seems not to be cut from this way. They sent some good white cards our way, and we weren't cut from black the other way, so we'll get our black in pack 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind us holding kind of the thing.
Next time a sorcerer you trust. Oh wow, it's a circle of protection.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not particularly.
So healing salve is not terrible.
Bog Imp is not playable, unfortunately. Most of these cards aren't. Enrage is not great.
You don't think it's worth playing?
I would rather not.
I mean, I would rather never play that card, but
I think. Okay, so let's look at these cards. The playable cards are Coastal Horn, Grizzly Bears, Rushwood Riot. I don't want to play any of these other cards.
I'm just wondering if taking all this individual color hate is worth it. Because if we get enough of it, we can lock people out. I think Healing Salve is better, generally, from playing Magic.
Are we going to play Healing Salve in our main board?
No. Are we going to play Circle of Protection anytime we play against a black player? Yes. Are we going to play Circle of Protection green anytime we play against a green player? Yes.
I'd also like to point out that there's only one card that's good here, and it's Nantico Disciple. But it is one of the best green cards. I don't think people realize that. So I could take the Disciple. It is a card that I would be very happy to play.
So have we not already decided we're not going in green? Because if we're definitely sticking with white and trying not to go green, we should just take the next circle.
I'm not sure. Before I saw Nantico Disciple this late, I was sure. But the fact that Nantico Disciple is coming around this late could mean they don't know how good the Disciple is, and it could mean that green is open.
That is odd. Well, we don't lose much by passing a Circle of Protection, so let's take it. Oh, man.
Alright, so we've got Fertile Ground
So Fertile
and
Ground...
Semi-Healer. And I'd rather take...
so Semi-Healer can mess up some combat, but Fertile Ground can make it where we could play black-green instead of playing white at all.
4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And so keep in mind, 4 of those are creatures and 4 of those are creatures. So if we went Fertile Ground right now, then we could actually just stop taking white. I really don't like bouncing back and forth between.
I don't either. And now we got back to the pack where white was actually there, and it's evident that
so we can take Nausea from this pack and,
here's the thing.
Totally drop them off.
Stand True Troops and Venerable Monk were the only 2 good white cards in the pack, and they both wheeled.
So weird.
The rest of the white cards were white, and unfortunately we just wasted all those green picks.
Oh well, it was worth it.
Yep. I want to take my first Venerable Monk over my second Standing Troops.
Okay.
I don't want any of those white cards, so I'm going to go and take this green card that we're probably not going to play, but I know I'm not playing into these white cards.
I mean, we might end up just cutting black at this point.
I think black is going to come from...
We'll see.
Wait. We can take Merchant Scroll. I'm going to take Rod.
I think Rod of Ruin is better.
Go ahead and take...
Solidarity seems like...
Actually, we'll take Holy Strengthening. Some matches do not have removal. Some colors don't have removal. I will never have an island, so they can have that.
Wow, and we got the Healing Salve on the wheel.
Yeah,
Pretty
no, it's
impressive.
in white. The packs just didn't open white. We got unlucky.
Yeah.
It happens. Okay.
Well, hopefully everybody else got a little bit
We
of that.
only need 7 more cards, and they were passing black and white to us from the other direction, so we should get the other cards we need. Our opponent, we put them into black, but passing them a Severed Soul, which I'm fine with, because
We took the better black card, right?
we took Worship over Severed Soul.
Oh, okay.
But we got past white cards. They weren't in white. We didn't pass any white. And it just so happens that even though we set up to get hooked up in white, they did pass all the white back to us. The white just didn't open.
Seismic Assault. I never want to play that, and I don't want to play against it in Modern.
Alright, well the good news is there are 2 great white cards here. We can take Aven Flock or Pacifism. I think I'm going to take Pacifism.
I think Pacifism's probably the best. There is a lot of enchantment removal in this set, though, if you're in the colors we're in.
Most people won't be playing it. The only problem we have is it plays poorly with Aven Cloud Chaser, and I'm fine with that. I will be happy to return on Lumining Shade, Aven Flock. I would take my first Coercion.
So what does Sprouting Algae do? Enchant Swap. when enchanted land becomes tap, destroy it, and then return that to your owner's hand. Wow.
Yeah, so-
there's just hate cards in every color.
Yeah, color users are just mean and spiteful and terrible, and that's why it's also not fun to play in this set.
So Guerrilla Tactics would be a great red card.
I would take Seismic Assault.
Well, yes, I would definitely take Seismic Assault if you were playing red.
Yeah, because
It's not worth any money online.
Nice.
Probably in paper either, actually.
Rock Egg's another good card.
That is a good card.
You know what's even better?
Yep. I do in fact.
Angelic Page.
That guy's pretty good.
And as you can see, we've
It's
got...
sad when Angelic Page is pretty good. There are a lot of mana leaks.
Okay.
I hope no one person got all of those.
You can wait long enough to outwait them. Yeah. All right, so here's the thing
correct.
about Angelic Page. I actually think it's one of the best... Because now when we get this ability, it just says target attacking creature or blocking.
Creature.
It's never together. This is really powerful. It actually adds 1 damage almost in any situation. I'm excited about that.
Ooh.
Persecute.
Persecute.
Or Gravedigger. So green is also open this way because we have the Disciple and Financy, which is good.
So I think I'd rather have the first Persecute over the second Gravedigger, and I think it would go in the deck, right?
Yeah. Once you know what your opponent's playing, it usually gets rid of
not
3
worth
cards.
anything. Circular Protection Red is apparently worth 85 cents.
So we have 1, 2, 3 cards that I'd be happy
So
to roll.
Fecundity would be worth money if it weren't banned. Like,
Oh,
banned completely in Modern.
I didn't realize it was banned. Alright,
It's what makes elves not unstoppable.
I like Seasoned Marshal, but I'm going to take my first Sever Soul.
Yep, Sever Soul's good.
So high five to us for getting black correct.
We did get, well, I like Fear, but I don't think it's worth it. Circular Protection Black, we already have one.
I'm going to take
Skate Zombies?
I'm going to take my Scathe Zombies. I don't want to play it, but if I have to, that's fine. There's no other cards that I consider playable. And remember, we are at 18 playables. We do need a couple more. But we have cards to cut. So when we look down here, cards I would like to cut, I think are just the 2 Scathe Zombies, which aren't terrible. You've got to remember, in the older formats,
What's Brass Herald do?
this is probably going to be our pick because the rest of these cards aren't playable.
Well, the top 4 cards, your library, put the chosen top. I think we have a lot of zombies, don't we?
We have 4 zombies.
What are the imps?
5. We have 5 zombies.
Oh.
We have 5 zombies. I'm happy picking zombies.
That's pretty impressive.
And I think we have
we've
humans. We've got 2 humans. We've got 2 humans. 3 humans? We've got 3 humans
we
and
probably
5
have
zombies.
a decent amount of soldiers, too.
All these are humans.
Oh. Some of them are
1,
human
2,
soldiers.
3, 4. We have 4 humans and 5 zombies. So I'm going to add this to my picks. It's not great, but it is card advantage. And there we go. Diving Griffin. Payoff white card.
Yep.
So we correctly read the draft. Whether or not our deck is great really depends a lot on our opponent's bombs and that kind of stuff. But I'm happy with how things have turned out. Oh, look, we can pick Karma. A card that we can't play at all and will kill us.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're going to take Vulnerable Mark. I don't think anyone else is in white. And I don't
Seems
think
legit.
anyone else can pay double white to pick it. And I want more Vulnerable Monks. Alright, so black is still open.
Might as well take the first coercion against all the stuff we can't play.
Yep. And we have our 22 cards.
So we have really cut the person that was drafting black going the other way.
They made a mistake because we didn't pass any good black cards in pack 1, and just getting 1 good double black card doesn't mean you should be in black. Our opponent did make a mistake. I don't mind that. I mean, if they had changed off colors like they should have and taken green, blue, or red, because we did cut black so hard, we would have gotten some good black from them. That said, it doesn't really matter either way.
I mean, giant cockroach, why not?
Put that in the sideboard.
We've got enough removal. It might be decent. Sadly.
It's okay. So Gravedigger didn't wheel. Obviously, there is another black player. Oh, our opponent picked it up, yeah. To our left.
Yeah.
And it could be our opponent to the left. That said, I think that that person is definitely to our left in black because we passed them the Sever Soul, and that was the only good black card they got through, and the next person next to us is unlikely to have gone into black for that. Like, they might have taken a black rare.
Nausea. It's so surprising how Fecundity would be worth so much money, yet it's worth nothing.
We could stick for
Nah,
Connection.
there's no reason to take Nausea.
Alright, I'll go ahead and take the card that I don't want to play against. Yeah. I don't want to play against that.
Yep.
Alright, and there's our sideboard. I think our deck's basically built itself. I don't want to play any of those cards main board.
So we're going to do 18 lands, or we're going to go 17 lands?
I'd rather just be able to cast all my spells. Like, here's the thing about
here's the thing, our curve stops at 6.
Right, but here's my point. There's no card worth playing, and I'd rather more consistently play my cards than play anything like
Giant Cockroach Coercion or...
Yeah, Giant Cockroach is literally the next best card. Like,
yeah.
Is playing your spells a little bit more on time better than a Giant Cockroach? Probably. I'm going to let Brad figure out the numbers on the stuff. I'm going to head to the bathroom real quick.
Numbers on lands.
Yeah.
Looks almost equal. I'll count real quick. So I usually just count the symbols since none of the activated abilities take any sort of mana of any color, except for, I believe, Master Decoy. Yeah, there's Master Decoy, so I'm not going to worry about that. 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 12 and 14. So probably just 8 and 8. So they're saying 9 and 9. Yes, that's because I can't do math. 9 and 9 makes 18. So add to deck. These are horrible pictures of planes. Did I remove... I don't know what just happened. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I think tonight I might actually order food from that Asian place. Seems like a good idea.
I don't know what it did to that land. I hate this interface. Alright, so we've got a pretty simple deck. We just basically play creatures and a bit of removal all along the way. If we play Brass Herald, we can call zombie or human, I believe it was. And we might just get to draw a card or 3.
Okay, so it's 4 cards, and we have one. How many humans do we have? That's a human soldier. It's 2 soldiers. 3 soldiers. Do we have
That one's a human.
3... 4 soldiers. Okay, we have 4 soldiers, so we have 5 humans, right? 1 human, 2 humans, 3 humans, 4 humans. We have 5 humans, so we should always say humans or soldiers because everything else is low.
Alright, so we actually do have 1 giant cockroach in the deck and 1 not in the deck.
I'd rather just not run the second one.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
agree.
particularly
So
great.
apparently, if you double click on one of those lands, they just disappear.
Whatever.
It's the weirdest thing.
So this is basically what these formats are usually like. One of the reasons I like green is that the creatures are so much more beefy. And one of the reasons I like blue is it's the only color that gets a lot of card advantage.
So it had a lot of bounce, it had a lot of counter spells,
And draw cards.
and it had a lot of draw cards.
All the creatures are terrible.
Yeah.
So you really have to have another color, either a controlling color. We have removal. We have pacifism, master decoy, dark banishing, and sever soul. So we have 4 kind of good removal-ish options, which is pretty good for this match.
And Rod can actually kill a lot of things as well.
The Rod will help. It kind of between Rod and Angelic Page, that can essentially be a 2 damage anywhere we want. And we have the 1 Worship. And the reason I really like Worship is if like we're playing against a green-blue deck, they can very quickly, there's no fight cards, they can get in a position where they just can't win. Like they could bounce a creature or something, but like other than them bouncing Worship, they're just stuck. You know? Or like all the red decks don't have removal, or some of the white decks don't have ways to kill things. They can remove enchantments, but Worship can really put your opponent in a position where they're going to lose, and you don't have to last forever. We do have the fortune of having 1 flyer, or sorry, 2 flyers, 3.
We get a lot.
We've got
We
3
got 1
flyers,
black flyer and 2 white flyers.
3 white flyers. So we have 4 flyers. We've got Dusk Imp, Angelic Page. So let's count the cards with good evasion. 1, 2,
Double
3,
Fear.
4, 5, 6. That's quite a few for black-white. Like
We've
that.
also got Persecute, so they're probably playing 2-color deck. We might could rip their hand apart on 4.
We can, and we'll know what they're playing. We can pick a color, and hopefully we hit a good amount. And if not, we can sideboard out Persecute to pull in like another giant cockroach, or if there's a more direct threat, we can pick a coercion.
Nausea, Coercion, Giant Cockroach, Circular Protection, all those good.
If we're playing against a deck that's very powerful, has a powerful bomb, we can bring in the Coercion to go with the Persecute, and you can play the Persecute and name a color and tear their whole hand apart, that kind of thing. So it's not. I know this deck looks underpowered. Magic,
It feels underpowered.
Magic used to be more underpowered, but we also see in 8th edition, we didn't get the Choke or the Blood Moon, but we saw like cards like Fundency, which are very powerful. We saw cards like Sanctimony, right? Do you want to play against Sanctimony?
No, you don't want to play against any of the hate, and we have a Circular Protection and a Worship, which might as well be hate.
Right. Like, we have some very powerful cards. Persecute's the kind of card, like, I played Standard when Persecute was illegal. It was not a fun card to play against. I played a blue-black deck in Ravnica that played both of those cards. You could transmute search for the Persecute, but when you bounce somebody's, creature, and then turn 4, you play Persecute, you name the colors they bounce, all of a sudden their hand's gone in a multicolored set. Imagine if Persecute, they printed it now. Imagine playing against Abzan and being like, oh, I'll just name a color and get rid of most of your hand.
Yeah, black, just rip their entire hand apart.
Or white, or green. Any of those colors.
Any color would get it, but black would probably be the
Play
worst.
Jeskai, just name blue.
Yeah.
What's a white or only red card in Jeskai?
Don't know any besides just burn. Just burn spells.
Okay. So yeah, just the whole deck is gone, right?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna go ahead and submit this in a second. I'm gonna start pulling out. We're gonna wait for this round to start, and in between rounds, we're going to open some product. I have a little bit more product.
All right, I can grab that.
All right. I think. Flip this over one more time. Make sure there's nothing else we want to put in. The other thing to consider is I do have quite a few good green cards. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of our 9 good green cards. So we could play green. Green is offering quite a bit of beef. I think the colors make it a little harder. And I think the green was definitely open. We could have been black-green pretty easily as well. Having 2 Nantuko Disciples would have been exciting. But with the higher curve on it, I'm just not as big of a fan, with the cards being a little bit easier to remove. But,
Oh, that's cool.
9 of the green cards were playable. We could have had the second Nantuko Disciple and all that. We're opening all this today, so we'll set it down here.
There's a lot of stuff here. There's a couple packs. There's a box. Oh, is that what I think it is?
Yeah, we'll cover that later.
Okay.
But we are definitely going to do some packs on the downtime matches because we'll have time. Brad, you can scoot the camera.
Oh, okay. So I'm about to have to leave.
Yep,
I've got
Brad has
prior
company.
engagement, but
So I was pointing out that we could have been green. We saw a little bit more green. We saw another Nantuko Disciple we passed, and I think another
There were-
Giant Worm.
there were a few more good green cards.
And we ended up with 8 of the 9 playable cards there. So we could have ended up in a black-green, and that would have been a good place to be. If our opponent had been sending us black, I might have moved more into that and been off white. I do think that white was open enough. I think that we got some good cards, but nothing. I didn't see anything amazing. I assume that there's another white player on the table.
Well, aside from Worship is pretty good.
Pacifism is pretty exciting, and Angelic Page came around. I think people don't really underestimate the Page and think it's a worse card than it is.
Yeah. I mean, alone it's not very good, but one other creature on the board.
Right. Like, imagine I attack with my 2/2, and you've got a 4/4. I've got a Page and a Rod of Ruin. Do you want to treat my Glory Seekers for your 4/4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I mean, every turn we can attack with a figure, and if they can't block it, it's just bigger.
Yep.
So.
And Nantuko Disciple is another card that I think is exciting in that way because it's essentially a repeatable, tiny giant growth. Like, imagine I attack with my 3/1 into your creature, and I've got 2 Nantuko Disciples. I can just give anything +4/+4.
Yep. Nothing I can do about it.
Nope.
Unless
So-
I have a removal spell.
Yeah. And removal is more powerful here. That's one of the reasons I like the white-black, is that a lot of the cards are hard to interact with. The white cards have high toughness. The black has just unconditional removal, which you really want, right? I mean, Pacifism doesn't stop Nantuko Disciple, so we only had 1 Dark Vanishing and 1 Sever Soul. I was hoping for maybe another piece of removal to go with it, so we're a little light on that, but I don't think this deck is awful. And I don't think you're going to get exciting decks, really, just
Not
in
this
these
week,
formats.
no. The only exciting deck I think is the one that has the sideboarded Blood Moon or some other huge money card that you
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can look into.
Your money cards are going to be nice to open.
So you can actually go over the prize structure real quick before the thing starts. You got a minute. You just
Okay. So, interestingly, the price structure is one of the things that made this attractive.
Oh wow.
You want to know something cool? We're not going first.
That is
The cards matter more than anything
that
else.
is wild.
Yeah. We'll cover the price
this seems
structure.
okay.
Yeah. We have lands. I'm going to be able to play a Standing Troops, and it's going to give me...
Yeah, I would play the swamp first
Yeah, sure.
because you have double black, but you don't have double white.
Yeah.
Well, you do it what? You actually do have double white and double black, but
It doesn't.
I would still play the swamp first.
So we've gotten a lot of cards here. I do like the Brass Herald. We can name a soldier or zombie, depending, or human or zombie, depending on what we draw more of. Hopefully we do draw a second black source. I would really like to play Persecute on 4.
I mean, I would rather play Severed Legion on 3 too.
Yeah, sure. Spiketail Hatchling. That's gonna make things tougher. And
What does it do?
They can sacrifice it to counter a spell, unless we pay 1.
Indie spell. Nice.
So the thing about Spiketail Hatchling is if you have pressure on, it's really good. What it's really going to do is just make all my spells cost more. For probably the rest of the game. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. I'll attack with Standing Troops. I'll play Standing Troops on turn 4. So I really do like Spiketail Hatchling. It
That's
essentially
pretty cool.
makes things cost 1 more for
Several turns.
the whole game until it dies.
Yeah.
Probably won't die. We'll probably get him for a lot of damage. Spiketail Hatchling on 2. Alright, guys,
Alright.
so it's just me now.
Just then. Good luck.
Oh, wow, a Windrake, too. Blue is looking good here. Alright, so we're going to try to play a turn 4 Standing Troops into a turn 5 Persecute and name... he played 2 blue spells. I might name white. Yeah, with him playing that extra... Not having a second planes makes me really want to just play the white. Windrake's really going to put a lot of pressure on us here. Alright, we're actually going to play the Dusk Imp. And that'll be able to trade with the Windrake. And trading with the Windrake is actually what I want to do here. No, we won't play for the Mana Leak. Alright, so if our opponent just has a bunch of Mana Leaks, they can definitely just take it away from here with just the 3 creatures. Or with the 3 power on the board. Alright, let's see if we can get down. I will play the Persecute unless I draw another flyer. Yeah, let's try to go ahead and see if we can get this resolved. If my opponent counters it, obviously, Alright, so let's go ahead and name white. Yep, they had 2 white cards. Alright. For each attacking... you gain 3 life for each creature attacking you, which is okay. And they get 2 stop cards. I'm surprised that they didn't play that. Alright, so now we just need to get down a warship next turn, and then a Standing Troops, and white is kind of not in a position to beat warship. And we are going to play warship next turn, because it gives them the least amount of time to draw a counterspell. Alright. If they can counter this, they would counter this. Alright, they can't, so next turn we're going to go ahead and stick a creature. And try to stick 2. And we're going to stick the Master Decoy first. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. We're actually going to play the Standing Troops first. And see if they want to counter it. And if they... Or, sorry, yeah. and try to get multiple creatures down on the board and force them to answer worship. They've got quite a bit of pressure. Alright, so let's go ahead and play Severed Legion, because it represents the most damage. And then I think we'll play... yeah, let's go ahead and play Master Decoy. Just because if they can play something, this will stop them from playing it. Or this will let us tap down stuff, even though it represents less damage in many ways. Just, I know these have the same power, but having the Vigilance means that if they do play ground threats. Alright, so now we're just trying to get our stuff out and win the game before they can bounce our worship. If they can bounce our worship, then this game is over. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, let's go ahead and play our Brass Herald. Alright, so we have to choose between humans and zombies, and we're likely to hit more zombies than humans, so let's go ahead and hit zombie. Alright, we didn't hit any, which is okay. Alright, we'll attack our opponent. And we're going to try to end the game as quickly as possible, because if they have a single bounce card, we lose the game. Like, worship is the only way we're going to do anything this game. Okay, they did not. Now, we could have picked human, because it would have added 2 more damage instead of just 1. But, alright, we're going to go ahead and attack with... We're going to go ahead and play standing troops first to make sure our opponent can't just kill all our stuff. And then we're going to attack with everything. I don't think there's anything that would kill all of our creatures. We'll hold back the Master Decoy, actually. And just attack for 5. The other reason I like saying zombie is that it makes the fear creatures bigger, and that's the hardest card for our opponents to answer. It's most likely to get through damage. Something like Avon Flot can keep back several white cards. Alright, let's go ahead and tap this. Alright, we'll play Scathe Zombies, which will be a 3/3. Tap Windrake. So that'll let us get through with all these creatures this turn. And I think that's going to end our turn for us. Got somebody bothering me on the phone. Let's see if it's important. Alright. Again, there's not really anything we can do. We're just trying to win the game as quickly as possible. If our opponent picked up that boomerang, they pick up the win. If they didn't, they lose to Worship. Again, Worship's not a fun card to play around. Or play against. In Modern, some people play Worship Troll decks, which means that they have hexproof, essentially. Your opponent can't do anything about them, but yeah. Alright, the opponent drew 3 cards. I think they should have done that in their first main phase, in case they drew a Boomerang, because then they could have bounced our Worship and tried to win the game. Alright, so if we attack with all of our creatures, our opponent can block 2 of them. They can trade here. And then block here, and we do an extra damage. So I'll attack with everything except for the Brass Herald. Yeah. If we attack with the Brass Herald as well, that kills the Windrake. They block the Scathe Zombies. They take 4 and go to 1. It's not really an advantage them going to 1 unless they can gain some life. So yeah, we'll hold back the Brass. We'll pull back the Brass Herald. Even if they play something like there was, what was it? Solidarity gives +5 toughness. Yeah, there we go. All right, we beat our opponent with Worship. Our opponent is just playing black-white, or white-blue. Sorry. There's not really too much we can do. I did like Worship there. I do like Rod of Ruin. I didn't see a lot of 1 toughness creatures. I saw 1. If I see another one this game, I might pull in Nausea. We really only have the Angelic Page that dies to Nausea and the Dusk Imps, so it's not a bad card for us, but we'll see how it goes from there. Alright, so I think we're going to run back the same. I don't really see any reason to run anything else.
Okay, also, the guy said you should not play Lucky.
You guys, I got black cards to play. I'll have to do as 1 planes. That's not bad. Oh, my opponent chose to go first. That's interesting. I guess they're trying to beat us before we get anything important down. Alright. Another Swamp is not particularly useful, but being able to go Dusk Imp into Giant Cockroach will help out quite a bit. Alright, I just have to send. Hopefully our opponent does not play another Hatchling. The Spiketail Hatchling is quite a card to be sort of played around. Alright. Upkeep. So let's draw a card. Alright, so it looks like my opponent has some sort of counterspell, because I left the mana open for it, which I'm fine with. Waiting, actually, is something I prefer to do. I really want to draw a white, so when they tap out, I can play the Worship and get it down. It's unlikely to have too many ways to answer it. And getting it down lets me kind of play around everything else. Merchant of Secrets is not a particularly exciting card. Hopefully, we draw a Plains and I can play this Vulnerable Mark next turn. Not quite, but Scathe Zombies is almost as good in that it stops Merchant and it represents, twice the clock. Cards like Merchant of Secrets are not the worst because they are cantrips. You do draw another card from playing them, but the fact that you have to pay 3 mana for it is kind of underwhelming. The fact that it can kill other low toughness creatures is a big boon, though, and it kind of is a speed bump. It's not the card you'd like to play in your deck, but if you don't have other things to do, it can do decent work. All right, so let's go ahead and attack with the Scathe Zombies. And if our opponent taps out, we'll play the Giant Cockroach. And looks like they're holding up counter magic, so I really like to just wait. Okay, well maybe I'll just go ahead and play Dusk. Dusk, yeah, actually. Yeah, let's see if they have it. If they have the counter spell, it's fine. Giant Cockroach will eat it. I actually would rather have Dusk Imp resolve than Giant Cockroach just because I'd like to be alive longer. If they have a counterspell, they should counter the Giant Cockroach. It looks like they don't. Looks like they're waiting on something like maybe they have an air elemental or something with double blue that'll do a lot of work. Catalog. See, looks like a good card, but it's even. You used a card, and then discarded a card, and you drew 2 cards. So it is selection. You do get to select better cards, but it's not particularly great. They discarded an Angelic Page. Wow. I don't know what's in their hand, but that's the kind of card I'd want to have against a bunch of 2 toughness creatures. Alright. So we still have 2 more black cards we can cast. If our opponent taps out to play something really impressive, I'll throw down that Sever Soul pretty quick. Alright. Okay. Let's go ahead and attack both of our creatures. See what our opponent does here. What they're going with, I'm not really sure what they're doing. There's not too many things I can imagine that you just... Yeah, see, they're just getting beaten down. Maybe they have a Wrath? I'm not really committing anything else to my board. Well, I do save 1 more turn if I play the Dusk Imp. So let's go ahead and play the Dusk Imp. No, we're going to make our opponent commit to the board. We're going to hold it. Wrath of God is in this format, and it's very easily a card that could put us in a bad position. Alright. We're representing the sort of like dark banishing of their instants and stuff. We don't have anything particular. I think if I hit a... Oh, our opponent's playing something. Okay, yeah, dehydration. So now I will commit another card to the board. It's essentially like one of my cards is dead. We'll go ahead with the Dusk Imp. If they had a Mana Leak here, actually, that'd be a great play for them. I would definitely Mana Leak this Imp. Yeah, okay. No, I will not. Alright, so then that puts us in a position to possibly play Gravedigger next turn and get back the Imp and try to get our power back up there. Opponent still hasn't really done much. It's been a lot of turns. They have a lot of mana. The standing troops will kind of get in the way of our stuff. Let's see what we draw here. Alright, so we've got the planes. We could Sever Soul the standing troops. It's unlikely they have another removal spell. We have 6 mana, so we could Sever Soul the standing troops. And if they counter it, that's fine, because then we can land the warship soon after. And then we'll have Vulnerable Monk and Gravedigger. So let's go ahead and kill that. If they have another counterspell, if they have another Mana Leak, then that's fine. Mana Leak is a card you can run 2. If I wouldn't run 3 because it's so bad in certain situations, yeah. And that also buys us more time when our opponent actually gets cards down, and we have to depend less on Worship, which our opponent probably brought in sideboard cards for. They're kind of slowly losing here. I mean, our opponent hasn't lost any cards. They've 1-for-1 to everything that we've played. Second standing troops. Strong. Alright, well now we just have to hope that they don't have another counterspell because we're going to try to get down that monk. Alright, so... we're going to go ahead and play 2 creatures this turn. And this kind of put a lot of pressure on them. I'm actually really happy we used that Sever Soul, because with our opponent having multiple standing troops, would be really hard to work through. But now we're getting in through 4 turn just with these guys right here. Unless our opponent plays another creature. Seasoned Marshal's not a problem because they can't do any double block. Or if they double block, we just kill the Seasoned Marshal. Alright, let's go ahead and go to combat first. Attack with all of our creatures. And, you know, our opponent doesn't really have particularly great blocks. Then after combat, we will have 7 mana, so we will play the Griffin and probably a Gravedigger. Alright, so let's go ahead and play the Gravedigger first. And we'll get our Dusk Imp. And then we'll go ahead and actually, oh. Yep, our opponent has a counterspell. Yeah. Alright, and we'll go ahead and play the Diving Griffin and see if they have a second counterspell. Which, you know, would be really nice, but Rewind isn't normally that great because it's hard to get a lot of extra value on it. It's really just a 4-mana counterspell. I don't consider Rewind a really premium card. I'd actually usually rather have Mana Leaks, unless there was something I absolutely had to counter. Because again, we have 3 creatures on board, our opponent has to counter most of them. Let's go ahead and go to combat first. We'll attack with all of our creatures, and then play a Severed Legion, which is another card our opponent can't really answer easily. Right, so our opponent goes to 4. They have 1 turn left. And we'll hold the Warship in case they have another Mana Leak. There's no real reason to play it. And our opponent knows we have 1 card in hand the whole game, so they're probably worried about something specific. This game's played out a lot worse for our opponent, though. Right, the Concentrate is unlikely to be enough. Even if our opponent commits just 1 more creature to the board, I don't think that's good enough. I do think a Wrath would do it. If they had a Wrath of God, they could put themselves in a position to win. And for that reason, I might should have saved the Severed Legion, because I think we would have killed them. If they played another creature, they could have. Yeah, so we got the match. Alright. So I was pretty happy with that. The quality of a lot of our cards might not be super high, but the fact that we could play multiple ones later on in the game meant a lot. Getting that tempo counts for quite a bit. Alright, so one of the things I was going to do is talk about a first pick idea. Let me find our cool little, where is it at? Here it is. Yep. We've got our little, what's it called? The stand. The stand's on the back of that. And we're going to set up and kind of talk about a pack and open it while we work through it. 0 cards in hand, though. Yeah, Bullet King, I was talking about after they played the Concentrate. Right, they played the Concentrate, and they could have gotten their way to a Wrath of God. So the interesting thing is, if they played a creature, it would have bought them 1 more turn. Like, let's say they played another ground creature. My attacking 2 times in the air would have done that. But if they played an air elemental, then my creatures would have died, and I would have won through the air elemental and lost through the Wrath. And I think I would rather play towards an uncommon than a rare. And, you know, the Concentrate they drew could have drawn them into either. But I don't think we could have necessarily played around both where we were at. Alright, but we're going to go through a pack of Battle for Zendikar. Remember, we have Oath of the Gatewatch coming up soon. We'll talk more about spoilers on that soon. Oh, Pellet King! I didn't realize that he didn't have any cards in hand. I wasn't focused right. That's a really good point on him not being able to have a counterspell. And in some ways, I definitely think that playing the Warship there would have been great if I thought I was going to be on the back foot. And I could have been if he had a Wrath of other stuff. So that's an interesting discussion point. Assuming your opponent has no cards in hand, and you could play anything, and they're worried about the Warship, which Warship, if I resolve, is very strong. But not necessarily necessary in that situation, because I had 24 life, and they were way behind. But let's say they played a Wrath and creatures and got ahead, and I only had 1 creature, etc., etc. Or do I hold the card, which, let's say, for the sake of argument, looked like it could have been a Dark Banishing. Very easy. And our opponent is trying to play around a Dark Banishing the whole game. If it was closer, I definitely would have played the Warship. Good catch there. I'm not always as perceptive. So we're going to open up a pack of Battle for Zendikar and talk about first picks. I'm going to turn it to full screen real quick. Okay. Let's go. I'm giant! Oh no. Oh no, it's not wanting to come around very well. And we will go right back to the stream back to the games as soon as it starts up. Oh my gosh, it's got a little bit of cord on it, and it's, well, oh, Brad's got a weird setup on this. Ah! The speaker fell. We didn't need that speaker anyway. Alright, guys. Hey, look, it's the side of things. Oh, look, it's sideways. Awkward. But you guys can see this pretty clearly. It's going to focus better. Come on, focus better. Stop focusing on the mouse pad. Focus on the magic cards. They're cooler. Because we have a little bit of time for round time. Actually, we're only waiting on one person. Let's go ahead and turn this over. Alright, so as the format has shook out, gosh, that light is really bright. Has shook out, we know that green is unplayable for the most part. I'm not in the camp of never playing green, but I need to know that it's open. So I will, like, if a really good green card wheels an excessively strong green card, then I'm willing to go in. I'm not willing to go in on Oran Reef Invoker. I'm not willing to first pick a Dispel. Or a Mindraker. Can I get a better angle on this? There we go. Or a Baloth. Brad, you missed it. We won our games.
Woo!
Game one was the first match.
Okay.
Our first win was on the back of Warship. We would have lost if not for it. And our second one was basically on just us playing better cards. Alright. Lithomancer Focus. Again, I don't have anything to first pick. Sheer Strike's a card that I've fallen down on. In my red decks, I actually do not like playing it much. The +3 and First Strike, I don't think is the kind of combat trick I usually want to run. Alright, so the Griffin is the best card so far. I'm not excited about playing it either. But I'm more willing to than anything. Let's see if we can get less glare on this angle. Is this? Look, it's my belly. Oh.
You have a glary belly?
No. There's a glare from that. I'm trying the other angle, and it's way better. Alright, and we can see Brad's dirty desk a little bit. Not much on it, really, but there's a headset, for sure.
Oh, you're opening packs. Okay.
Yeah, well, we'll wait for the round to finish. Alright, so Smite. So this is an interesting thing. If the rest of the pack was awful, would we take Smite or Courier Griffin? I would probably take Courier Griffin. I think it's a little bit better. I would definitely rather have the first Smite than the second Courier Griffin, but I think I'd rather the first Courier Griffin over the first Smite. I think I'd take Stone Fury over either of those cards. Even though I'm not too terribly excited about playing red unless I'm Red Devoid. But it's fine. I'm out on the Great Horn. I'm out on Transgress Mine. This is a rough pack. Okay, Ondu Rising. Look, we have a first pickable card, and it's something that will actually win you a game. That's exciting. Despoiler is less good than Ondu Rising, and I think I would actually take the Stone Fury over Ulamog's Despoiler as well. Alright, I've changed my mind. Quarantine Field is the card to pick. This is one of the best cards in the whole set. It's hard to say if Quarantine Field or Gideon is actually the best first pick in the set, but I think it's between those two. I think it's defendable to take Quarantine Field over Mini Mythics, Mini Planeswalkers. I'm not sure if I would or not, being that the Planeswalkers can win the game and this just usually kills 1 to 2 permanents, but it's extremely powerful. The Mighty Plains, and our buddy the Core Ally. So yeah, Quarantine Field, easily the pick. Yeah. But let's say that Quarantine Field wasn't here, because doing the stuff for the bad rare is where it's more interesting. Having a rare that's a pickable card is exciting, and it is good for your draft in reality, but often you have a bad one, so you need to know what uncommons you're picking first. And for me, it's Ondu Rising, and I think my pick after Ondu Rising is Stone Fury. I think both of these cards are acceptable first picks, although maybe not the most exciting first picks. I could see an argument for picking Stone Fury over Ondu Rising, but I really like the power of that. So let's do one more, and then do our next round, and we'll actually open a loot crate on the time extra, assuming we have some. Because our opponents just went 1-1, so we're actually going to have quite a bit of time. Alright, so we're going to do something kind of interesting here, too, after the picks on this. We're going to keep them separated. Plummet. It's plummeting, first of all. Now, Plummet, even if green was good, is not playable main board in the set because blue and white are really the only colors with color. Sorry. With blue and white are the only colors with flyers worth considering. Salvage Drone is a card I don't consider playable. Some people do like playing it. I'm not of that camp. Colostri Healer is a card I would like to not first pick. If the deck is open, the deck is strong, but you need a lot of cards to go right. And you basically need to have either a decent amount open and 2 people in it, or just you in it for it to be good. So if someone else picks this deck, you're kind of out on it. It's a kind of thinner deck overall. So I would be likely out on the Colostri Healer unless there's nothing else to pick in the pack. And it's not a Kite Cell Scout. I think I'd take the Colostri Healer over the Shatterskull Recruit just because Shatterskull Recruit's not great. I'm not excited to play it, and how good it is compared to... If Colostri Healer deck comes together, it's very, very good. Shatterskull Recruit will be mediocre at its very best. You could talk about picking Cloud Manta over Colostri Healer. I would not. I think Cloud Manta is usually going to be played in your blue decks. It's usually going to be fine without being exciting. But I think Colostri Healer is enough stronger that I'd rather have the healer if it went well. I'm basically out on the effect lands. They're just not where I want to be. If for some reason I'm in green, Fertile Thicket's really good, or if I'm in 3 colors, but that's about it. Not playing green cards. Alright, I am taking Demon's Grasp. Well, I don't know if I'm taking Demon's Grasp over Colostri Healer. I think that it's the safer pick. You're going to play it if you're in black. There's many more black decks than there are Colostri Healer decks. It's just, it doesn't perform as well in the decks that are good. I think I would take the Demon's Grasp, though. So we're on Demon's Grasp right now. Alright, I'm on Malakar Familiar. Powerful card. You don't need lifelink for it to be good. Just being a 2/1 flying Death Touch is great, and I think that that's the card I'm definitely on so far. It's worth at least a little bit of money. Alright, so in that one, it's actually just Malakar Familiar, not even close. So here's the interesting thing we're going to do. We're going to talk about if I had first picked Quarantine Filled, and then I got past this pack, which I said, someone else is drafting. Let's assume they took the Malakar Familiar. What that leaves us with is the next pick. And we have one good white card. I don't think that's enough to commit to anything else. So we're left with the pack minus the Malakar Familiar. What's the second pick in this pack? And I think that the second pick in this pack is almost definitely Demon's Grasp for me. Being just black-white in general is only okay, but having a good amount of strong removal is pretty exciting. And then I have 2 removal spells. I have this slower deck that's running Quarantine Filled and Demon's Grasp in it, playing together. Alright, so we're going to set this back up and hope that our opponents finish their match pretty quick. I would say that both of these packs were actually fairly weak, other than just one or two picks. I mean, in the first pack, it was Malakar Familiar, Demon's Grasp, Cloud Manta as the cards I would actually pick. I'm not one to go in hard on a high-risk, high-reward deck. And then the second pack, we had Quarantine Filled, which is amazing, right? You start with a Quarantine Filled, and your leaps and bounds, I'm warping my deck to play this card. No matter what I got to do, I'm going to play this double white. I'll find a way. Then we have Stone Fury and Ondu Rising, which are both playable without being exciting. And then some sort of lower excitement cards. All right, let's set this back up and hope our next match comes up. And kind of look at spoilers just for a minute while we got time. And I'll talk about them. We'll probably do something a little bit more in-depth overall. In a couple days, we're getting back on routine for streaming, holidays, and work. I work a ton during holidays, had me off sort of where I was hoping to be at. But let's go ahead and look at some cool stuff here. Whoa. Alright, so I'm going to hit up into Salvation. That's where I like to look at my spoilers. Some people use Mythic Spoiler, they're all the same. Except for this one apparently doesn't load quickly. Usually MTG Salvation has the kind of translations that I'm looking for. Alright, so... Oh, this doesn't have them in the order that I want them in. Let's go back. I want to look at the newer cards. This is the first time I've actually seen a lot of these cards. I have never seen Boulder Salvo, which is 4 and a red for sorcery. And it deals 4 damage to target creature. Surge for 1 and a red. Alright, so here we go. This is the limited bread and butter cards we're talking about. Boulder Salvo. 4 and a red to deal 4 damage to target creature at sorcery speed is not exciting, but it is acceptable. I would play that card and never be happy about it if it didn't have any other text. It has Surge for 1 and a red. Now, this is limited. I'm not playing many 1 mana cost cards, and the ones I am playing are usually combat tricks. So this is realistically a card that's going to cost me at least 4. But the fact that I can play a 2-drop and then discountedly deal 4 damage to a creature is pretty exciting. I think Boulder Salvo is great. And also, or not, maybe great's the wrong word. I think it's playable. Depending on how the format shakes out, it could be more than that. It could be less than that. But the other thing to think about is surge costs are good at multiple. So let's say that, Boulder Salvo is a common, you have 2 in hand, and you have some other card that costs 2. If you have 6 mana, you can play all 3. You can play a 2-drop that may not have been super exciting. Maybe it's an Anticipate, and then 2 Boulder Salvos. Now you spent 6 mana, you got your 3 cards worth, but you got much more than that amount of mana's worth, right? Gideon's Reproach was 1 and a white to deal 4 damage to attacking or blocking creature. It was considered one of the best white, I think it's the best white common, and it's one of the better commons overall, because that's a powerful effect. And this can do anything. It can reach out and kill creatures that aren't even attacking or blocking that are using abilities. So definitely a powerful card. I do think it's worse than Gideon's Reproach overall, but the fact that it can surge for so cheap is pretty cool. Alright, Pyromancer's Assault. 3 in a red, enchantment. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, deals 2 damage to target creature player. This is another card that's probably going to be seeing more play in Limited by quite a bit. It's going to be hard to cast 2 spells on your opponent's turn. That's 2 instants. I don't think that that's usually doable, but it is fine. How relevant is it? It's 4 damage. Alright, so Pakula King's asking, how relevant is it 4 damage? And there's 2 parts to this. The first part is, honestly, we don't know what the power and toughness are. We have a little bit over half the set, and we don't know what the toughness importance is, but I will say that there's really not been any set where 4 damage isn't killing most of the things that matter. If you look over Magic's history, there's not any sets where most of the common and uncommons have 5 damage. So I would say 4 damage is going to unconditionally kill most cards at common and uncommon under 6, and most bombs and rares. There will be some creatures it doesn't kill, but if you do sort of a mental checklist of Oath of the Gatewatch, Battle for Zendikar, and go down your list and check all the creatures and be like, how many have 4 toughness or less? It's going to be most of the ones you want to kill. There's going to be a couple that survive it. You're going to have your Deathless Behemoths and a couple other Eldrazi things that are big, but it kills the 5 drops. What was it? Kozilek's Channeler, the 5 mana 4/4 tap for 2. Boulder Salvo will reach out and kill that. I think 4 mana is what you should think of as close to unconditional removal. It will not kill the biggest bombs. It won't kill the most expensive creatures, but it will kill almost anything else. I think usually when we see 3 mana, that's killing all the way up to some 5 drops, most 4 drops. I think 4 damage kills most 5 drops and up to some 7 drops. So that's a lot of damage to throw around. When I see 5 damage spells, I usually mentally catalog them as unconditional removal. In this set with big Eldrazi cards, it's not quite as good, but in most sets, other than giant green cards, it's right there. Alright, Bonesaw's going to be the last one we talk about. In most formats, Bonesaw would not be playable, because +1 power is not worth a card and a mana like that. But the fact that it's free means that some Surge decks may want to run it. You could run it as a Surge enabler, where you're essentially discarding a card to gain mana. So think of it as a Dark Ritual almost. You played Bonesaw. It cost 0. It made your Boulder Salvo go from 5 to 2. You played a free Dark Ritual in many ways. I think Bonesaw will be a synergy-based card, which is a weird place for it to be, but an exciting place that free cards like Bonesaw are ritual cards in the Surge mechanic. Brad's looking at me with a funny face, but yeah, the fact that Bonesaw is a Dark Ritual is kind of cool in this set. We're about to start our next match. Back to Pyromancer's Assault before the match starts. I think it's a build-around card. I'm not sure if it'll be successful or not, but I really hope it is, because if Surge is strong enough to support Pyromancer's Assault, remember, if you get to use this ability every other turn, if you're casting 2 spells every other turn, let's say you're saving up because you can't play something every turn like that, you're essentially getting a 3rd spell free. Shock is a spell. Now, I want to get 3 shocks out of Pyromancer's Assault. I want to get 3 activations for it to pay it for itself. But 4 mana deals 2 damage, 2 damage, and 2 damage. That's basically a form of Cone of Flame. You got to work for it, so it's not as good as that. But it can be better, and it can be worse. I think Pyromancer's Assault is the kind of card that I would be excited to try out. Speaking of excited to try out, I would like to not play first. Cards are important. Alright, here we go. This is a great hand. We're going to play Dusk Imp into Persecute, and then Persecute our opponent for hopefully a couple of cards. Let's see what's going on here. You guys, in the chat, if you see anything or any plays that you think are controversial or you would have made a different play, definitely tell me. I'm always wanting to hear about other people's ideas. Would you keep this hand? I mean, I think this is obviously pretty easy keep, but we've had another keep. The other game we had 3 black cards and no, 2 black cards, 2 white cards, and mana, and 3 black and 3 swamps. Like, that's a moderately controversial keep. I think it's fine, personally, because I kept it. But I was close. I considered mulliganing it. So we're gonna have 6. Assault will be so. Peckling says the assault will be good if the format is grindy with plenty of smaller creatures. Yeah, and a really good point that they're making there is just because Battle for Zendikar was a little bit slower and synergy based, doesn't necessarily mean that the Oath of the Gatewatch will be. It could be very fast because it is 2 packs of Oath of the Gatewatch. I will say I think that they want the format to be a little bit more consistent with itself overall, and that Wizards will be making it a slower set to pick up the synergies and play well with Battle for Zendikar. So I'm assuming that they'll kind of keep that consistent trend of a slower, more synergistic format. We'll see how many smaller cards they are. It kills Scions, but I really don't want to be killing Scions. It's nearly where I want to be at. I'm going to play Scathe Zombies because I'd like to trade that with the Grizzly Bears. It's my worst creature, and I want this game to go longer rather than quicker. I've only seen green cards from my opponent, so we're going to go ahead and name green. And if we're in luck, they're mono green. And if they're monocolor, Persecute will tear this deck up. Alright. Let's see if we can pull out a Giant Growth. Nope. A Giant Spider, though. Alright. Choose a player. Black, black, white, white. At the very worst, we get to see their other color and kind of know what to expect. Alright, green. They're playing green and red and white. They're playing 3 colors. Whenever an opponent 4 damage to target creature player, that's pretty good. Pacifism, can't attack or block, that's pretty good. And then 2 big creatures. Pretty good. Alright. So our opponent's playing a little bit more high-risk strategy of sort of trying to play a lot of powerful spells altogether. We are going to be playing a Dusk Imp and a Severed Legion, and then we're going to save this Cloud Chaser for when they play that Pacifism. And we're going to try to just get out more power than they have. Our opponent probably drew another spell they couldn't play, or they would have played it. Alright, we're going to start with the Severed Legion because it can attack. And we're also going to play a Master Decoy. And hope they don't draw red. The Master Decoy will be able to keep down the Giant Spider, let our Dusk Imp get through. Really put just a ton of pressure on our opponent. I actually really like where we're at. Now they do have the Guerrilla Tactics and the Pacifism. Let's go ahead and pass on that. Alright, so let's go ahead and attack with our 2/2. And then second main phase, we'll play our Dusk Imp. And we'll hold back Aven Cloud Chaser and a Plains. And we're just going to keep holding back Aven Cloud Chaser until they play that Pacifism. I'm sure they have Fertile Thicket or Rampant Growth or something. Or Wood Elves. Wood Elves will not do a lot. Our opponent's going to go to combat. Oh, wait. I took off my stop, which I wish I had on. So we're going to lose an extra 2 life because our stops got messed up. So I'm going to tap that Wood Elves. Take that, Wood Elves. Alright, we fixed our stops. Alright. The other good news is, like, our opponent's in a kind of tough spot. They will be doing 1 damage a turn to us. But I don't really feel like that's nearly enough. Yeah. Let's go ahead and tap this giant spider. If our opponent has a way to untap it for 1 turn, that's fine. They should attack with the Wood Elves. Alright. Oh, a Moss Monster. It's a problem. Alright, so let's go ahead and get our attacks in with both of our flying creatures. Play the page, and then we're going to decoy the Moss Monster, and then put a position up where we're going to be able to kill the giant spider starting next turn. Alright, so we got our page down. So we're not going to block this turn. We're going to tap down the Moss Monster, and then starting next turn, we're going to basically represent letting them trade their giant spider for our Dusk Imp. Yeah. I'll hold the Plains and the Evan Cloud Chaser back. Alright, let's go ahead and tap Moss Monster. Now, we could tap Giant Spider and race 4 for 2. But there's a lot of ways that could go badly. If they get a red spell, we can be in trouble in a lot of other spots. So we'll take our 3 this turn. Go down to 8. And now we have a strong defensive position. Oh, a second Moss Monster. Opponent's all in on Moss Monsters. We've got problems, guys. Oh, here we go. Alright, so we need to think. Can I win the game? 3. I can do 5 with these. Tap my opponent's Moss Monster for this, and then my opponent can attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I'm going to go for the kill on my opponent. And I'm going to play my Aven Cloud Chaser to represent more damage. Yeah, Palooka King. Crunch. Crunch. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and make this play. I'm going to attack with my Dusk Imp, my Angelic Page, my Severed Legion. Play the Aven Cloud Chaser and try to finish the game quickly. Beforehand, Palooka, yeah. Sorry, I was focusing on the game a little bit. We could have played it before. I assume my opponent would have more ways to get white mana out, and I was not expecting multiple Moss Monsters. And them answering just like playing an answer on my Severed Legion before I had more threats was pretty good. But here we go. We're going to go for 5 damage this turn, 5 damage next turn. Trying to close out the game. Well, if we play... Well, we can play a Plains, too. So we actually can play the Cloud Chaser and still keep Master Decoy up. Yeah, Blue King, playing the Aven Cloud Chaser first might have been right, because his deck's a little bit more aggressive. I tend to play more controlling mid-range decks, but... And this deck can play that role with the Master Decoy and the other removal spells. But I think in this spot, with our opponent having so many... bigger creatures, we just need to get underneath them. Like, we've seen 3 monsters and a Spine Worm. I'm going to tap down the Giant Spider to prevent that damage. My opponent's attacking for 7. So do we think they have the giant growth? What's our damage if they don't do anything? We have 5 damage if they play a flyer. So we're going to block both of the moss monsters. And that way they'll have to have multiple cards. But if they play any sort of plains or mountain, they can kill one of our creatures and put us off of lethal. So do we block both of them or do we just block one of them? That's really where we're at, which is an interesting spot to be at. If we block one and they have one removal spell, we still kill them. Or they have one pump. If they have 2 pumps, then they'll do 3 and 3, which is 6, 7. Or if they have 1, then they do exactly enough. So I think we're going to go with the slightly more... This opens us up to losing to 2 pumps. Yeah. And that's our opponent didn't have anything around it. Okay. So our opponent's playing a lot of really, really big creatures. And they're 3/6s. So I don't particularly like giant growth here, but I don't think we have too many exciting things. Now we can sideboard out white and in green. The only thing that really makes me want to do that, though, is Nantuko Disciple. We do have a Crawworm and a Spineworm, but they don't match up bad or good particularly against their green cards. Staunch Defenders is a nice card against them, but like the monks aren't. But I really don't have better cards to play. I could take out a monk and put in a giant roach because it attacks and blocks better. It's a little bit more impactful. I do like Standing Troops. With the 4 toughness, it's quite good against all those moss monsters. I think we just have to try to get underneath them. So, Vulnerable Monk. Sorry, no. Scathe Zombies are Vulnerable Monk. They also make our Brass Herald a little bit better or worse. I don't think that's nearly as much of a consideration. It's really, do we want to bring in a giant cockroach? And I kind of like the curve where it's at. I think I'm going to keep with where it's at, just because I haven't seen anything particular. I could also be convinced to bring in a Holy Strength. They probably don't have much removal, and that extra toughness can go a long way, especially on something like a Standing Troops. Not sure I really want to bring in an enchantment, though. Especially with them having instant speed removal. So do I want to bring in Holy Strength or Giant Cockroach? We didn't see any 1 toughness stuff or Unholy Strength. I could bring in Auras. Our opponent does have Pacifism. And did have the other one removal spell. Looked off of splashes, or they got unlucky. I could take the Healing Salve and do gang blocks. I think I'm going to run it back one more time and get a better feel for my opponent's deck is doing and see if they have more white or red. And if they don't, I think I will put in maybe some more high-risk, high-reward cards. Alright, so I think my opponent should go first here because they have the more powerful deck. Alright, this is definitely a mulligan. A mulligan to 5. Does it keep? It's got lands. Put that on bottom. We need more lands. Alright, so I will say, this is the kind of hand where the deck that I really, really want to get Worship out because they really won't have enough removal to do much at all. And we're also gonna play Dust Imp into hopefully Staunch Defenders. I'd like to play Staunch Defenders twice. Gaining 8 life is quite a bit. It'll buy us a lot of time. The Dark Banishing is great as well. I'm still going to play the Dusk Imp first. Our opponent has 2 colors represented already. Just, a plus for them. We're not going to say red with a Persecute on the... Oh, all the colors of the rainbow. Opponent has everything. And what else? Makes my Dusk Imp a little sadder. We're still going to play Dusk Imp. And we're just going to try to get in some damage. Our opponent probably doesn't have too many creatures with flying, so just being able to put down a Dusk Imp and then maybe Dark Banishing something, and then Staunch Defenders, and then maybe, trade, play Gravedigger, Staunch Defenders, could just buy us enough time to win the game. Yeah, pacifizing on a Dusk Imp, I'm down. That sounds great to me. Let's go ahead and play our zombies. And this will kind of put our opponent not able to attack. depending on their big creatures. Now, the fact of the matter is they have a lot of moss monsters. Like, that is kind of scary. They lose to quicker decks, but these formats tend to be slower. So just picking up the moss monsters can be fine. But like in our last match, where we faced down like 2-drop flyer into 3-drop flyer into 3-drop flyer, you can just lose very quickly waiting for your moss monsters to, wow, come to fruition. Opponent just doesn't have as much here. Alright. Let's go ahead and attack. See if our opponent has anything cool. They don't. I'm going to hold. I don't want to play Gravedigger early. It's more of a value card. Our opponent hasn't really done a lot to put pressure on us. I will Dark Banishing a big creature pretty quick. I will wait one turn to see if I get something like a land, because Staunch Defenders blocks Moss Monster so well. If I do not, I will then Dark Banishing the Moss Monster. I'd rather Dark Banishing their 5/4. That's really the hardest card for me to deal with. Yeah, let's go ahead and Dark Banishing it. It's not really what I want to do, but the fact that we drew another removal spell will help quite a bit. So we're hoping to draw a second black source. That'll open up Severed Legion and Sever Soul. Any land, like the Plains or Swamp, will pull up Staunch Defenders. That's going to be a tricky card to get around as well. So we're back on the defense. It's just when Giant Badger blocks that it gets +2/+2. So it's not the end of the world. And there is our card to play our Staunch Defenders. But we can't really attack through anything. So we're hoping to draw some flyers. We have a pretty good defensive perimeter set up here. If our opponent plays another big creature, we've got 5, toughness out total. Alright, our opponent Lightning Blasted it, which is fine. We're just going to Gravedigger and play it again. We don't have anything better to get except for flyers with our Gravedigger. Actually, I'll Gravedigger next turn. If I draw a Swamp, I may or may not Severed Legion. Depends if our opponent plays another big creature. Alright, our opponent is playing very defensively. Well, let's get that Staunch Defenders back. It stops the mossy guys. Okay. Yes, I would like to use Gravedigger's ability. Yes, I'd like to play Plains. Nope, I can't attack into Giant Badger, unfortunately. I will not Sever Soul a Giant Badger. I will wait for a flyer or for second black for Severed Legion. These older games are a lot about card advantage and very rarely about tempo. Alright, let's go ahead and play Worship. It's the kind of card my opponent is unlikely to be able to answer. We could have played the Staunch Defenders, and in fact I should have. It slipped my mind. I'd rather have more creatures out. They probably don't have an answer to this Worship. We might just win the game based off of Worship and slow flyers. So we're going to really kind of play very conservatively and keep our creatures alive as easily as possible. There's very few white cards that I would just play the answer. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and put Severed Legion down. This is a clock. And we're just going to take it nice and easy, 2 at a time. Our opponent has 8 turns to answer Worship or all of our creatures. And the fact that they have to kill Dusk Imp before Worship goes offline is a pretty big gain for me. Alright. We're going to play a second Severed Legion here, just to try to get this going and end the game quickly. I may or may not play Staunch Defenders. I don't think I would play Wrath of God if it was a splash in a 3-colored deck, but Wrath of God would be very rough for us. Okay, our opponent had the Guerrilla's Tactics. That'll help them out, but we have a second Severed Legion. Alright, so if we draw the Brass Herald at this point, we could be in a situation where saying Human is just much better. And we're going to go ahead and play Staunch Defenders now that they have a 3-power creature out. Because of how much damage humans represent. Or the zombies. That'll give us so many 3/3s. Alright, so we have a ton more life than our opponent. Probably should have played that second main phase. Wasn't particularly focused on that. Yeah. I'm just going to hold the swamp back. Let our opponent wonder a little bit. There's not really any opportunity cost to playing or not playing the swamp. Is that all I want to do? Yeah. So, one thing with playing cards is if you always hold one card back, your opponent will usually just think you have a land. It's important to mix it up. Sometimes I'll hold one card back and just have it be the Sever Soul. And sometimes I will just keep the land back, kind of keep it back and forth a little bit. Alright, so we don't want to attack with the Staunch Defenders. Now, I could kill the Giant Badger and, attack, but the fact that our opponent has so many more big creatures that would just end the game for us very quickly makes me want to take it slow with the Severed Legion. We have the 2 Severed Legions. We have the Aven, which would give us back the Dusk Imp as well. And we have another flying card here. I think we have a total of 7 evasive threats. And we've seen 1, 2, 3. So we have about 4 more evasive threats. So I really feel like we have enough time to very slowly play the game. Right, Moss Monster, not good enough here. We're going to block with our Staunch Defenders. Actually, we'll block with our Staunch Defenders and 2 of our zombies. We'll kill that if our opponent makes the mistake of attacking into it. And the other nice part I like of this, if they do have a combat trick, it will put us in a rough spot. Let's see, if they had 6 damage, they could kill multiple of our cards. So we could Sever Soul the Moss Monster. And the more I think about that, the more I like it. Because if our opponent had another bigger creature, they would have already played it. And the 6 life will buy us a lot more turn. The fact of the matter is, our opponent probably doesn't have very much more removal. They've used 3 pieces, which they're probably splashing for. And at this point, they have to kill us very quickly because we have them on a 5-turn clock. Assuming we don't draw any other pressure. And that 5-turn clock, with Warship and all these other cards, is very hard to come back from. Alright. We'll go ahead and play another swamp. Okay, we don't have enough creatures to do a big swing or anything cool like that. We're just trying to slowly win on our few creatures. I think we're out of hard removal. We have a pacifism left. So it is kind of scary that we just have a bunch of ground guys left. And they're not really doing a whole lot of scary stuff. Giant Crocodile would be a fine draw in that it trades with many creatures, including the Spinedworm. But we really can take our opponent's saying 4 lands left. I mean, the fact of the matter is we have 11, 12 in hand too. So yeah, we both flooded out pretty bad. Games like this tend to be slower though. This format is, again, a lot about card advantage. That's why I really like drawing here. Your opponent's not usually going to out-tempo you. They're usually just going to slowly grind out. And things like Severed Legion are going to win the game by themselves. Like, 3 more turns and this slow little Severed Legion's crawling their way there. Off screen. I'm going to have 6. Let's see if our opponent... They probably have nothing. Black, black, white, white. Let's go ahead and say green. So I guess they have a combat trick. They have a forest. That's what I figured. Alright. And another attack. If we could get around the Giant Badger. If the Giant Badger wasn't here, I'd be willing to consider attacking with everything, trading staunch defenders for trained Armadon, trying to getting ahead. Oh, that's a giant creature. He doesn't get around worship though, but that's a giant creature. That's a really good guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be a 9/9. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4 zombies played. I'm playing these lands because one of the big things is if we draw the Brass Herald and I draw cards off of it, naming human, I'd like to be able to play quite a few of them. And having 12 mana doesn't even necessarily guarantee that I'll be able to play all the ones I draw. It will now that I have Staunch Defenders out, I think. But if I got, like, we've drawn quite a few lands, so there's just a lot of gas left. We have, like, 12, 13 total out? Yeah. Alright. Yep. If they tap too many creatures, we'll attack. And they don't appear to have an answer to worship yet. And even if they do, it's a 3-turn clock and they're dead next turn. Yeah, see, that's not good enough. Alright, let's end it. Severed Legion. Get in there and do 2 more tiny damage. You did it! Severed Legion! The tiny Scably calls! Yeah. So, again, big wide boards. I feel like cards like Llanowar Behemoth. Yeah. And 12. Yep, our opponents tell us they just have a few lands left. And the same for us, I think we drew about the same amount of cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We drew the same amount of cards, but I was a card ahead because of the Gravedigger. Oh, I guess a card behind because of the Persecute. Whatever, it basically worked out the same. These games are very slow. Card advantage is very important. It's one of the reasons I like playing blue. Alright. So that leaves us with 1 match left. And it begins immediately. We don't have to wait for anything. Alright. So we're going to go for the 3-0 in 8th edition. But let's talk about the prize structure while we've got just a second. Because it is good. All the flashback decks are the same. Alright. So it's 3 rounds. If you go second, which we are going to do, you get 100 points. Third and fourth, which just means winning your first round, is 50. So it's a third of the cost of entry, or half the cost of entry. We're going to go even plus the cards we drafted, which have almost no value at all. And if we win this match too, we'll basically have gained another draft, which is huge. And the QP, which helps us get promos and stuff. If we get enough QPs over the year, we will play in some sort of cool event. But I don't think I play quite enough or perform at quite enough high of a level with how little I play. So I either have to play more or be better. And it's probably just play more, because that's how you get better. So we're at 100 points for sure. And we're going to go for the big 2-0. Oh, there's 2 zeros and 200. And here we go. We won all the dice rolls. And I'm still not going first. I like this hand. It needs 1 land, but we've got 3 turns to make it happen. And just 1 more land will give us 2 playable spells. And the one after that will give us the 3rd playable spell. So this is a little risky, but this is the kind of hand that I'm fine keeping on the draw. I expect my opponent's deck to be quite good. Alright, there we go. We made it. I will play the Aven Cloud Chaser out. Well, our opponent played a plane, so maybe I'll hold back because now they're more likely to have a pacifism. Style effect. Alright, and they've got the Coral Isle, so they're probably playing a more offensive deck, I would assume. Coral Eel is a... Oh, Sage Owl. I don't know how I feel about Sage Owl. It does trade with our Pit Imp, so it's fine against us overall, but I do not think it's a particularly great card. I will be happy to play out... I think I'm going to play Scathe Zombies into Aven Cloud Chaser, trade my Scathe Zombies for the Coral Eel, block with my Aven Cloud Chaser, and then get down Severed Legion and save back Gravedigger as long as possible to see if we need to get Gravedigger back an Aven Cloud Chaser to remove a pacifism or to just try to, just get back any kind of card when we need the pressure on it. So let's see. Yeah, definitely Scathe Zombies. There's not really a lot that I would rather trade here with the quality of our hand and slow the game down than speed the game up. And the fact that they're to play a card like Sage Owl makes me feel a card up, and the fact that I'm actually literally a card up from going second means that I might be able to grind out what I want. Alright, there's not a lot of tricks in blue-white. Yep. Alright, let's go ahead and play our Aven Cloud Chaser. This will shut down his Sage Owl. We'll follow that with the Severed Legion with the opportunity to play a Sever Soul should they play something threatening. I'm going to try to save the Sever Soul for a very large threat. Alright, let's go ahead and go to combat. And it's time for us to start attacking. 2 is greater than 1, and we are playing a Vulnerable Monk, because I'd rather that be countered. They didn't counter it. I have no idea. Maybe they don't have anything. There's no 2-mana removal spells. Although, I could represent that this is a less known format. Alright. Angelic Page means I want to attack with the Vulnerable Monk, offer the trade for the Windrake, then play the Page and the Severed Legion. And then I'll have Page with the Aven Cloud Chaser holding back the Windrake. And the fact that we can Sever Soul to gain life is actually a very big deal. It'll put us back into position to be very far ahead. Okay, so we're going to start with the Page because this is the most important card overall. Alright, and if they would like to counter our Sever Soul or Severed Legion, that's fine. They just F6'd. Okay. If they attack with Windrake, we will let it get through this turn, and then we will represent Cloud Chaser and Page every turn on defense and attack for 4 every turn. Yep. Alright, so let's see what our opponent's going with now. Ooh. Wrath hurts. Opponent's definitely in a better spot there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's not the worst thing in the world. We can play our Staunch Defenders. I'm going to play my Staunch Defenders. And then, assuming nothing goes good or bad, I'm going to get back Severed Legion. Because Severed Legion is the hardest card to block, and Staunch Defender sets us very far ahead as far as racing goes. There's not many cards in white and blue that can attack through Staunch Defenders. Alright, Air Elemental. So we have the card to kill. Our opponent was sitting on Wrath of God, Air Elemental, trying to get as much advantage as possible over time. And we're going to go ahead and look that bad boy. If they had a counterspell, I would definitely have held off on the Air Elemental and just a turn more. Ooh, Unsummon. Very sharp. Alright, so our opponent's going to replay Air Elemental, but we are going to have a Severed Legion, and they won't be able to attack because Staunch Defenders will really kind of just set them up to be behind. So we will be able to get 2 damage a turn through. We made a mistake. I should not have tapped double black. We are still getting Severed Legion. I made a big mistake there, so let's go ahead and pass. Makes me sad. So we do have another answer for 2 more answers for Air Elemental. The nice thing about Unsummon as well is our opponent doesn't have a lot of good targets for Unsummon on our side. But it is something to be very aware that they have a Wrath of God and an Unsummon and an Air Elemental. Unsummon's not necessarily powerful, but our opponent used it in a very smart way. They were very patient. They did things correctly on that end. Same for the Wrath. That's an interesting attack. I'm assuming our opponent's going to have something to follow up with it. Otherwise, it's just a losing proposition. Oh, okay. They confiscated our guy. Okay, here we go. So then, we're going to hope that our opponent does not have a effect to remove Worship, because we're basically on the back of Worship to win this game. So Confiscate. Ooh, Temporal Adept. Our opponent just has all the good stuff. We're in a real rough spot now. We could double block the Staunch Defenders, but then let's kill our Severed Legion, so let's get put us too far behind. We need a removal spell ASAP to kill the Temporal Adept. If we can kill the Temporal Adept, then the Worship will be fairly safe. Alright, so our opponent has 1, 2, 3, 1 toughness cards. I think we're bringing in Nausea this match.
Yeah, so I started a lot of money, but it all gets burned away.
Alright, we're going to attack for 4. Now, our opponent's going to probably bounce the Worship and attack for 7. Or attack for 7 and play something else. I actually wouldn't bounce the Worship here. You don't need to bounce it until the turn you're going to win. Right. So we need to leave like 1 blocker for... Oh! Merchant Scroll. That's interesting. Let's see what they get. I think this is going to be our first game loss. Hopefully the match will go better, though. Yeah. Wrath, Confiscate, Temporal Adept, Air Elemental. White-blue was the place to be. Another Unsummon. That's interesting. Guess they just didn't have anything better to play. Let's go ahead and attack with the Severed Legion. If I was my opponent, I would bounce it. Yeah. I'm going to play both. Alright. So now our opponent can bounce the Worship and attack for 4. I think they should just attack for 4. Because they attack with the Staunch Defenders. Oh, no attacks. That's interesting. Also, I think the wrong play, because now they're giving us openings to kind of get back into the game. Alright, we attack with Severed Legion. They bounce the Severed Legion. We replay the Severed Legion. Alright, so all we need is a removal spell to kill the Temporal Adept, and we can win the game. And every turn that they do not kill us gives us another turn to close this door. I think Temporal Adept is their only way to answer Worship, but we only have 1 card in the entire deck, their Dark Banishing, that answers the Temporal Adept. And that's assuming our opponent doesn't have a counterspell. If they draw another flying card, we're fine for 1 turn because Diving Griffin. But, you know, as soon as they get a couple of more flying cards out, we'll be in a rough spot. I think they should attack with Air Elemental, and then pass, and then Air Elemental for lethal, and which forces me to block with the Griffin, and then they can bounce our Griffin in response to combat tricks, and the Worship is still just sitting there, and then if we block, they let it die, and then the next turn we don't have a flyer, they attack, we can't block with worship, or we lose worship because they bounce it, and that ends the game. All right. Let's block with 3 creatures. And our opponent gets to kill 1. They're going to kill the Griffin, which is definitely the right one to kill. And we attack with the Severed Legion. That's interesting. Alright, so our opponent thinks that bouncing the worship and one of our creatures, and that'll win the game. And it will. I mean... Oh! End of turn, Severed Legion. I gotta give a severed turn. I would have bounced the Scathe Zombies, bounced the worship on my turn, and gone for the win. But now they don't have that option. I mean, that said, they did kill us in 2 turns with Air Elemental. But that gives us 1 more turn to draw the card we need. And we'll have 1 more answer to the Temporal Adept after this match. Alright, so we didn't draw what we needed to draw. We just hit a bunch of lands instead, and the card advantage off the Wrath of God. Put it out of reach. The good news is Worship will, it looks like, beat their deck. Do they not realize this is permanent? I guess not. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull in our Nausea. And I don't know, Coercion will let me get out Wrath. So what am I dropping if I'm playing those 2 cards? I don't know how much I like Dusk Imp, but I think it's fine. Oh, we had Rod of Ruin as an answer as well. Okay. So maybe I don't need Coercion then. So, let's see. We need to make 2 cuts here. The fact that I'm pulling... I can cut a land, too. We've been very steady on land drops. And this having more spells does count for quite a bit. Our opponent's deck's not particularly fast. So I don't feel awful about cutting a land, but I need to cut another spell. I think it might just be a Vulnerable Monk. If I cut a Vulnerable Monk, or... yeah. Vulnerable Monk's not doing the world here, which will leave us at 15 creatures. Oh, I don't know if I really like Coercion that much. It can get rid of 2 cards that I really need to get rid of, though. Yeah, I think I'd rather just... well... see, Coercion can get rid of Wrath, and it gets rid of anything else. And being able to get rid of Wrath when an opponent thinks they have a Wrath is a really big game. But just having more creatures lets us come back after Wrath. I think I'm going to go here. I'm not sure this is the right setup, though. No, I would not like to play first. Yes, I would like to keep. We've got... Keep. Master Decoy into Angelic Page. To let us keep down our opponent's stuff tapped. Let's go with Angelic Page first. I'd rather have the Master Decoy, honestly. Alright, they didn't have a counterspell. And we have Pacifism for their bigger creatures. The fact that they can bounce their creatures back does help them, but it's just a 1-for-1. Then we're going to play Master Decoy, hopefully into Giant Cockroach. And then we have a big creature to attack with. Alright. And here we go. So we're going to allow our opponent to do 2 damage to us instead of blocking and using the Angelic Page. Just because it'll let our Giant Cockroach attack as a 5/3. Yep.
Yeah, you can't trade unless we're touching. But I can just put it. See, that's why I wanted to thread on. I usually attack with
Actually, he said, Thomas said that it's possible to build the right? It's not
usually.
Alright, so our opponent has 2 creatures here. That makes Master Decoy much worse. Makes me just want to go in with the Giant Cockroach now. I think I'm going to wait a turn. I think it's worth the 2 damage. Right? Yeah. Well, I can play the Giant Cockroach, block, and kill the Windrake, and then play the Giant Growth the Gravedigger the next turn with a land. So I like that actually quite a bit. Let's try that. Not my favorite setup, but it'll work. And we have our stop set up correctly.
Yeah, there's a military grid in that. I don't know which one's which except military.
Alright, we'll go ahead and block Fleeting Image. Oh, our opponent took that trade. I like that trade. Fleeting Image is very hard for us to answer. And our opponent's just playing defensive cards. Angelic Page would have been nice there in some ways. Let's go ahead and attack with the Giant Cockroach. See if our opponent just blocks. And the next turn we'll Gravedigger back the Angelic Page because that'll make it so that it can get through the Wall of Air. I would block here. There's not that many combat tricks.
But you cannot go past the minimum cost of the same.
Now, if our opponent has a mana leak, we'll be in a rough spot. Looks like they didn't. And we'll use Master Decoy to tap down their Windrake. Alright, so we are playing sort of into the Wrath here, but I really would like to end the game sooner rather than later. If I attack my Giant Cockroach, I'll trade with the Giant Horseshoe Claw, which I think I'm fine with. Let's undo that. Let's go ahead and tap down their Wall of Air. We're going to try to win the game really quick. We have a lot of pressure out. And the way that they've been killing and trading and not pulling back Fleeting Image makes me think they don't have Wrath right now.
So essentially, we destroy all the creatures without fighting.
Well, if you take over that square and all those
I should block with the Coastal Hornclaw because I made a slight mistake. Oh. Wow. I think that's going to cost us the game. The fact that they use the unsummon there lets me know that they don't have Wrath.
But also he has benefits to
Yeah, I'll trade Dusk Imp with Windrake. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. So we can't play Diving Griffin and Giant Cockroach.
No, they said it would be there.
So let's play Diving Griffin, which leaves us up to Angelic Page, Stop the Avon Fisher, and Master Decoy the Hornclaw.
You have 5 minutes to get this defense all fine.
And then we're going to keep the Hornclaw tapped and start attacking with the Diving Griffin every turn. Alright. I think we're in a winning board position here, actually. Because our 3 creatures add up to more pressure than their 3 creatures. Sage Owl makes all the difference, though. Offensively. I don't think it does a lot defensively, so I'm really looking to get like a Rod of Ruin here. That would actually make me very happy. Rod of Ruin would let me take out the Sage Owl, which puts me in a much better spot. If I attack with the Diving Griffin and pump it with the Angelic Page, they can kill both of those. Let's go ahead and tap down the Coastal Hornclaw. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play the Giant Cockroach. We can attack with this, have them kill both of these. Yeah, let's do that. We'll attack with the Diving Griffin. Okay. If our opponent double blocks, we'll Angelic Page the Diving Griffin. Nope. Forgot about the Wall of Air. We could pacify the Wall of Air, but, I mean, our opponent has some powerful flyers we need to... Well, we don't have to play around the Elemental, but with them at so much life, I don't think it's wise. Oh, we made a mistake. They could. Yep. Could trade Coastal Hornclaw for Diving Griffin. I'd rather not. Alright, and then in step, we'll go ahead and tap Wall of Air and do the same play. Oop, I thought I made a mistake. Some misclicks here. Confiscate. That's going to be a very big problem. Alright, so that means that we have to go ahead and put the brakes on the Hornclaw and put ourselves in a really bad spot. Now we're basically losing to a lot of spells, but there's not much we can do to catch up past that. We did make that misplay earlier. Now we're in a rough spot to Air Elemental, Wrath, and Temporal. Our opponent has 3 really good cards. We have removal spells. You know, we've drawn a lot of lands here. Our opponent has drawn about the right amount. But hopefully we'll hit a couple removal spells in a row. Everything but Nausea seems like a pretty good draw. Unsummon on the page. That buys him quite a few turns.